This episode finds the Hoppy Trails gang in Dubuque, Iowa, which, if I'm being honest, has never really been on our radar as a place to go visit. But I'm here to tell you that if you were to stop and take a quick look around, you'd find a lot worth seeing in this so-called flyover city. We arrive in Dubuque's clean and well-maintained marina, a little surprised to see it nearly empty. Right next to the marina, you'll find the National Mississippi River Museum and Aquarium, and just across the harbor is the William M. Black Historic Dredge Boat, which is permanently moored but open for tours in the summer. We're feeling a little cooped up from a couple long days on the boat though, so we strike out for some exercise in search of a playground and some food. Dubuque is a fun mix of both new and historic architecture, and you'll be hard-pressed to walk a block without seeing some sort of mural, with 40 of them having been made since 2016. The city is easily walkable, and it doesn't take us too much time to find a suitable playground.
Take my helmet off, Mom.
And wouldn't you know it, there just happens to be a brewery right nearby. Dimensional Brewing is well worth a stop with a nice selection of beers, including some tasty IPAs. And while their kitchen happened to be closed on this visit, we couldn't help but go back another time and enjoyed that too. Weather was moving in, so we make our way down the street to First and Main to wait out the storm, where we enjoy a healthy meal of mac and cheese, Philly cheesesteak, and bacon-stuffed mushrooms. With the storm finally past, we make our way back to the boat, where we fall asleep to the now familiar sound of freight trains passing through. Well, we've been underway for a week now, and taking a day off in Dubuque, and it's my birthday! Had a great day so far. We slept in a little bit, and then we went and got some mini donuts, because that's the thing we do, is we get donuts on my birthday, and the only donuts in town that we saw were mini donuts that have been kind of fancily done up in multiple different variations. I could have had 12 all to myself, but we shared them among the three of us. Then we went to a brewery and had a really good lunch and some good beer. And then we came back to the boat and we did laundry and we cleaned the boat. Very exciting birthday things, but it needed to get done, and I feel good now that it's over. And so we're about to go out and ride a funicular, which is a steep kind of railroad elevator that goes up a hill to, I think, some nice houses at the top. And then off to dinner, probably the same brewery we went to last night, but they didn't have food last night, and so we want to check it out. It's been a good day. It's been a lot of fun. It was nice to have a day off, and we're back on the river tomorrow, and I think our next dock is going to be in Moline. Anyway, let's go party. After a walk around town, we arrive at the Fenland Place Elevator Company, also known as the 4th Street Elevator. It's also been called the world's shortest, steepest scenic railway. The current 2-car setup dates back to 1893. The original 1-car elevator was built in 1882 for private use by Mr. J.K. Graves. Mr. Graves was a former mayor, former state senator, and general bigwig around town. He had found that his half-hour commute from his house at the top of the bluff to his work at the bottom took too much time from his midday nap and meal. So he had the elevator built, and it didn't take long before his neighbors started requesting rides up and down the hill. After a fire in 1884, Mr. Graves rebuilt the elevator and opened it to the public for 5 cents a ride. After another fire in 1893, the neighborhood banded together and built the elevator you see today. Today, the ride will cost you $4 for a round trip. And while I'm sure it's perfectly safe, there's a sort of lateral sway that's a little bit unnerving. The view at the top is worth it though, and it was definitely the high point of my birthday. After a few last-minute errands, it's time to cast off our lines and continue downstream. A couple miles south of Dubuque, you'll find the Mines of Spain recreation area. It doesn't look like much from the water. In fact, you probably wouldn't even know it was there. But from the air, the view is spectacular. a shorter day underway, so we drop the anchor early, enjoy a little extra R&R, take a quick swim, and enjoy some more health food off the griddle.
I need to be wrong to do it.
Yeah, you're not. We're just going to do that off the ladder.
The next day is all about putting miles behind us. We trade compliments over the radio with a privately owned paddle boat, and see a number of other interesting vessels throughout the day, including a couple of hovercraft. That is so cool. Which are apparently rentable out of LeClaire, Iowa. If I had known about those ahead of time, we would have definitely planned to stop. But we motor on and add another note to the things we need to do the next time around. Home is where you drop the anchor when you live on a boat, so we made home next to a sandbar just outside Clinton, Iowa, and went ashore to stretch our legs. So we're at the end of day 7, or is it day 8? I'm starting to lose count. I think that's good. But we're just here, south of Clinton, Iowa, which is right across the river from Fulton, Illinois, which is pretty cool. They've got a windmill that was built in the Netherlands and then shipped over here, and it looks like a classic windmill, like something you'd find in Amsterdam. But we're just here anchored between 2 wing dams, and we decided to call it a day here. It's got a great little sandbar. The girls are running around. Guthrie is happy. It just made me think that for those people who only stay overnight in marinas, it's got to be really stressful because you got to plan the marina ahead of time, make sure they've got open space, and then you've got to get there, which in our case, our schedule is relatively fluid. And so that would stress me out, trying to make sure we get to the marina we are anticipating, preferably before close because you got to check in. And so you might be going high speed the whole way, burning a ton of gas, not really seeing the sights. Whereas we go pretty slow, and we stop when we feel like stopping, go for a swim, go on the beach, have some fun, and this really suits us. And so for those who are looping or plan to do the loop, I highly recommend getting comfortable with anchoring. In our case, if we see a spot we like, we kind of gingerly go into the area, make sure that it's not too shallow for us. We find a safe depth. Today I think it was about 8 feet, which for our draft of 2.5 is perfectly fine. Drop the anchor, and then we back down at about 1,000 RPM. And that, if we don't move, check your GPS, look at your surroundings as you're putting that reverse on, and your anchor is stuck. If you're not going to move, then you're probably not going to move all night long. So we feel pretty comfortable with that procedure. We might get a little bit of wake over the evening as tugs come through. We're kind of in a commercial area, but I'm just so thankful and pleased that we are all comfortable with anchoring out. In some places, you might not find marinas close enough together that suits your needs. And so just the ability to anchor out wherever looks like a nice place is really good. Granted, there will be some bugs, but I think tonight we're actually close enough to town that that shouldn't be too much of an issue. We've learned a few things living on the river. First, and what surprised us most, is the sound of trains is ever present. It makes sense when you think about it, since rivers were the main arteries of commerce before the train lines were built, and the relatively flat terrain would make for easier railroad construction. But we have come to cherish the rare night in which we are not awoken by a train horn. Another lesson, or maybe more a reinforcement, is the further you are from a city, the more bugs you're going to see. But the third lesson is you can always tell when a city is coming up. You start to see recreational boats when you've been the only one for days, or in this case, a car boat. And you start to see more waterfront houses. Really nice houses. As it was, we were approaching the Quad Cities of Davenport, Bettendorf, Moline, and Rock Island. And this is a stop I've been looking forward to. The smaller size of our Ranger Tug comes to our aid once again as we make our way to the free dock off John Deere Commons. It's a wicked current, so you have to plan accordingly. And if you're any bigger than a pontoon boat, the only place you'll fit is at the T-head at the end of the dock. Luckily, we have the whole dock to ourselves as we're the only one there, except for the scheduled channel ferry, which has its own dock.
I want to play with it.
Cool.
From the free dock, it's a short stroll to the John Deere Pavilion. and I don't care if you're 3 or 39, it is one cool place.
It's a little high.
I want a bake here.
You got your seatbelts?
Those buttons.
Eventually, our hunger for food outweighed our hunger for heavy machinery, so we made our way to the Bent River Brewery for lunch. Unfortunately, that required a backtrack to the boat, as not everyone in our family was welcome. And on top of that, we found the beer and food to be pretty average. It's hard to tell from our short stay if the city's getting tired or if we just caught it at a weird time, but for being a Saturday afternoon, the place was very quiet. Bed and exercise, we make our way back to the boat to continue on toward our marina for the night in Rock Island. On our way, we passed by the Lindsay Park Yacht Club and noticed that Devonport seems to have a whole lot more going on than what we saw in Moline. Maybe that's where everybody went. But the day's cruise takes us a little further through Lock and Dam 15 before we reach our destination of Sunset Marina. Our Ranger Tug has a draft of about 2.5 feet, which is pretty shallow compared to other Great Loop boats, and has kept us out of trouble many times. So you can imagine our surprise when just outside the mouth of the Sunset Marina, we touched bottom and came to a slow stop. Luckily, the shoaling is just silty sand and mud, so we gently push through it and make our way to the slip without further incident. But the depth, or lack thereof, definitely got our attention. In its heyday, it must have been an impressive marina, with 9 docks and almost 400 slips. But as of the fall of 2023, those days appear to be long behind, with silting and low river levels leaving many slips high and dry.
That one's so close. I saw it like right over there.
Armed this time with a little local knowledge, we make our way out of the marina without touching bottom. Barely. And we enjoy beautiful cruising weather as we work our way south, covering 130 miles over the next few days. A quick lunch stop in Muscatine, Iowa is nearly thwarted as their tiny marina is way too shallow for us, and there is no public dock. But, motivated by hunger and a hysterical toddler in desperate need of a playground, we drop the anchor across the river and take the dinghy to shore. The town is cute and cozy, and with playground needs being met, we grab a beer and a bite at the Contrary Brewing Company, which seems to be the center of activity in the area. After a quick grocery stop, we continue on our way. The next day takes us to Fort Madison, Iowa, where a lot of work is being done to refresh the waterfront, including the marina, and is well on its way to becoming a great boater destination. The marina residents are welcoming and kind, one of whom offers to let us borrow his pickup truck. We are appreciative but decline, and are just struck by the thoughtfulness of strangers who make us feel welcome in their town. Our stay in Fort Madison is short and sweet, but we don't leave before walking in the town and finding a really good coffee shop for breakfast. We make note to return someday to tour the historic fort on the waterfront, and return to the boat to carry on with our journey. 16 miles south of Fort Madison, we come upon a massive structure, which we discover to be the Keokuk Hydroelectric Plant, and also the entrance to Lock and Dam 19. The dam and powerhouse were completed in 1913 and was built to send electricity to customers in St. Louis, which is over 100 miles away. The lock is a newer addition, replacing the original, and was completed in 1957.
This is by far the most we've ever dropped. This is a really big one.
And I'm not even holding ropes this time because we're using these bollards. Well, first time for everything.
We dropped 36 feet, making it the tallest lock we've ever transited. And it's our first lock with floating bollards. We simply wrap a line around the large floating metal tube, and it descends the lock with us, keeping us secure to the wall and saving our arms from having to let out line as we descend. Once we exit the lock, it is time to pick up the speed. On account of marina closures and construction, we haven't been able to get a pump out since we left Dubuque 5 days ago. The sewage tank is so full that we can't even flush the head, so we need to hustle to make it to the next marina 35 miles away in Quincy, and get there before they close at 6. Hoppy Trails runs on a single diesel engine, and it's pretty efficient at 7 knots, burning about 2.5 gallons per hour. But one of the advantages of the Ranger Tug over a more traditional trawler is that when you need to, you can pick up the speed. So today we're cruising at 14 knots, at the cost of over 12 gallons an hour. We don't usually go this fast for a long period of time, but this is an emergency. Well, we just had a restful evening at the Art Keller Marina in Quincy, Illinois. We got a much needed pump out this morning. I made pancakes for Willow and I while Morgan ran over to Hy-Vee to get some groceries. And we were out pretty quick. We're at lock 21 now, and unfortunately they are broken down. It sounds like it's electrical. He wasn't entirely sure what the ETA would be, but he guessed at least 4 hours. So we're at anchor now, and it's a good opportunity for us to get some chores done. So here we go. Are you helping with chores? She's trying away.
No, she's definitely not helping.
One of the day's projects is to install a bug screen on the cockpit door. We keep the door open almost all the time to keep the interior cool, and the bugs seem to take that as an invitation to come on inside. So it's Amazon to the rescue with this magnetic door screen, which installs easily with adhesive Velcro. So it's been 2 hours since we got notified that the lock is broken down. And I'm not normally a man of superstition, but I do know if I'm on an airplane and I get a coffee, that's when it gets bumpy. So I figure if we crack a beer now, although we don't normally do so when underway, as soon as we do this, then the lock's gonna open up, everything's gonna be fine, and we'll make our way to Hannibal. So, cheers. It turns out that superstition doesn't pay off, and it's another 2.5 hours before we get the call on the radio that it's time to enter the lock. Well, that was a weird one. We got cleared into the lock after about a 4.5 hour wait, which is a pretty good estimate for a guy who had no idea how long it was going to take. And we entered the lock, and there was pretty much no oversight after that. No guy waiting to throw us a line, no direction if we were going to float or catch a rope or anything. We radioed them, no response. So we just found a hook, tied to it, and down we went. We're about an hour out from Hannibal, and we'll spend the day there tomorrow most likely, and then continue on. Hannibal, Missouri is most famously known for being the childhood home of one Samuel Langhorne Clemens, or as most of us know him, the author Mark Twain. We make ourselves at home in their tiny city marina, where we rest up for the next push to St. Louis. And we'll tell you all about it in the next one.